All right, here we go. Anticipated the rematch of the Vietnam finals. We've got Team Wales versus Gigabyte Marines. It's going to be an exciting game. This was won by GAM in their regional event. We'll see if that has anything to do with how they act, whether or not the pressure of the world stage is going to get anyone. GAM knows that they've won it before. Usually that has a tremendous effect on these sort of rivalries. You know you've done it, so you can do it again. But Team Wales has looked very good. Slow, methodical, but poignant, right? They've been good. All of their marks were good. They went good come from behind victories. They did look loose in game one, and then they looked good in game two and great in game three in both of their series. GAM taking the much longer road to get here. Perhaps will have a little bit more momentum coming into this, knowing that they've won multiple series to get to this point, whereas Team Wales only has a 4-2 record when you think about it. So I do think that Gigabyte Marines is going to be favored in this. Looking at the draft, we do have some anomalies. Viego Syndra is a very popular combination, but Viego Renekton's can be very, very easy for K'Sante to outscale on this top lane. We're going to see an early Armor Treads and Iceborne Gauntlet. Armor Tread. We're going to see early Plated Steel Caps and Iceborne Gauntlet because it builds so nicely into the two of these champions. So K'Sante should have a very easy time. The only time that he'll really have a little bit of hurt is going to be levels 3 and 4. Hopefully Renekton will play for more points into W. We saw that Adam messed this up by putting too many points into Q. Once you get 3 points into Q, between the Gore Drinker and the Q, you're clearing the backline anyways. There's no need to put more points than that. It's not like you can one-shot the front line. And W is a much higher damage spell for your role late game, which is going to be looking for that backline assassination. Good little 1v1 or 2v2 here in bot lane. Canonical, or we're going to see this a lot. Xayah Rakan on one side and Nautilus Kai'Sa. This is what's going to be the most popular battle at Worlds. We still haven't seen Ashe make it through. We do expect to see a lot of Ashe once we get into the main draw. People are going to stick with what's been working for them. And then we have Syndra versus Orianna. So I feel like we see this every year at Worlds. This is about the sort of lineup that becomes popular, and really this was the first year that they went out and publicly said that that's what they do, that they go and target a certain meta game with engaged supports, carry tops, carry junglers, etc. Let me know in the comments what you think about that, whether or not you like it being scripted meta games for exciting champions. You know, people want those big shockwave moments, those big Lee Sin outplays. Kai'Sa's always going to be here. Xayah's always going to be here. I feel like we see the same roster of 40 champions at Worlds, regardless of what happens. But, you know, largely they just have the best kit. But if this is true that they intentionally make them strong for World Championships, I, for one, hate it. I would rather have a balanced game and let people actually figure out what's good and actually find new ways to play the game. But it is what it is. Anyways, we see this ward in the Tribush. This is meant to defend against this play. This is a very common thing that you'll see, is that the support can stay, especially if it's someone like Nautilus, bringing the dive value way down and Kai'Sa stepping back. So what they're accomplishing there by splitting up is making sure that if the dive goes, Kai'Sa should be able to come back and get a kill for themselves, and that would not be worth it for the Gigabyte Marines, right? So if you're looking for that dive, if your target's the support and you're trading a support for one other player, very, very high risk and low reward for getting that kill, and you might even give the enemy carry a kill, which is why they back off. Now they are going to use this lingering vision that they have here, right? You see all these vision, the wards left in the northern quadrant, plus the bot side scuttle crab. It means that they know that they're quite strong. They know Lee Sin's on the other side of the map. Compare that to red team. They have no knowledge of where Viego is, so they have to assume that Viego might be nearby. Now, Kiaya, this has happened every single game so far. Kiaya not respecting how much the other side thinks that the jungler is there, right? If Lee Sin just got chased out of the eastern quadrant, right? Where else is he going to go? They know that he's not in the bot side river. They know he's not in the eastern quadrant. That eliminates the only place he can be is in the northern quadrant. If you're Renekton, you have to play with much more respect than that. You cannot allow that to happen. Even though junglers don't have starting combat stat items, they are competent enough. Their kit, especially someone like Lee Sin, is exceptionally good at level 4, 5, and 6. They're going to be just fine in these fights. Renekton should be scared in that situation and should have played with more respect. So the early kill to Lee Sin is a very bad sign for the Marines here. It is going to catapult him up ahead. And we saw this. This has been every game, literally every game for them. Kiaya has had these oversteps. Now, we do talk about it sometimes that having synchronized pressure in different places creates a better total net gain. The question is when to pull back on the lever, right? So if you can put pressure in all 3 places at the same time because they don't know where the Viego is, for example. Let's watch this gank. Nice little trap there. Beautifully done by Team Wales, jumping out to a huge lead for themselves. If you can put pressure in all 3 places at once because your jungler is in fog and because your jungler could be anywhere, then that can be strong, right? You can probably gain a lead in 2 different places, and maybe only one place where the Lee Sin actually shows up can they get something. So this is called tempo gaming. You can get a lot of extra play during the course of the game by playing this way. Normally, though, you can't afford to go with all 3. The synchronization needs to be really, really strong to get that. Normally, you'd rather just have a weak side and a strong side, and you don't care that they know, right? You just say, okay, that's fine. Like, I know you can't get any advantage. And here we go. This is what K'Sante does to Renekton every single game. You hit level 6 and you instantly take over the matchup, especially because you've got that armor stacking for yourself. So that's the theory. Kiaya was overstepping and should never go up into the fog like that, the way that they did. Bot side and, Syndra, Xayah, Rakan, they were all pushing. They were gaining resources. They both gained themselves a 5 CS lead by getting turrets under the or waves under the turret, and they also were able to get a plate for themselves. So in the aggregate, even though Lee Sin did come top, they very nearly still got parity on the trade, right? You can see that in the gold lead. See how it's 12K, 12K, right? That's why you shouldn't overweight some of these kills if it's resulting in pressure everywhere. So that's just a concept I want to go over real quick with how they're playing this. Now, going into like the reality of how that plays out, it can cause your team, you very much have to be on the same page with what you're doing and know that that's exactly what you're doing as a team, because it's very easy for trust to drop if you think that, like, hey, why did you die? We weren't in this situation, that sort of thing. Let's check out this beautiful trap. Oh, kind of just walked into them. They had the timing down on Viego, right? This is a good job. They've basically been tracking Viego. So what made that whole interaction different is they knew where Viego was. Renekton can't pretend that Viego's in fog. Oh, nice little Q flat. Wow, Levi. Wow, that was neat. Well played, sir. They know where Viego is, so you can't play with impunity top. And then because they know where Viego is now, they figure out where Viego is going to be a minute later. That's why they're able to get the play in bot side as well. Lee Sin's going to pull this over, finding out now that there's a control ward. Notice that they're not taking the time to kill the control ward here. All right, you can't waste 4 auto attacks. You'll see this from Lee Sin's too. It is so important to have your W available, the safeguard, that they are not even going to use W. It seems like the most logical spell to use to get your resets, because you have 4 attacks to kill the ward, and every time that you cast a spell as Lee Sin, you're getting empowered increased attack speed for the next 2 attacks. So it makes a lot of sense. Hit, safeguard myself, hit, put the second cast of W, hit again, right? And that way you're going. But you'll see that they never do that. It is too important. It is vital even that they are able to safeguard to reposition. This is a monster part of the kit, is being able to do that for themselves. And very, very rarely will you see them use the W, only if they have perfect information of what's going on. All right, Renekton K'Sante is getting dicey. This is actually the exciting part of the matchup before it becomes completely one-sided for the K'Sante. You're going to see this Iceborne rush, and from that point on, it's going to be completely favored for them. Hello, extra stun. Wow, Caddy playing that to the limit. I love how they did that. You see that Syndra getting the shield on herself. Not only is it a shield, guys, when you put the ball, whoever has the ball gets extra stats. Orianna has some of the lowest base stats in the entire game, that's because the ball goes on her, and it can go on her, right? And while it's on somebody, they're getting those extra stats. So she thought that she might be able to hold that matchup, hold the combo damage by getting the E on herself. But then Caddy, using all the balls that drop from the ultimate, they're going to scatter all those extra balls, right? Through more than whatever you have already. And then when you cast your Scatter of the Week, boom, it's going to spray them all. It's almost a guaranteed hit on your stun. That's why you see most people going maxing E second on Syndra. You're getting that extra effectiveness on that spell. Caddy was able to take that stun and turn it into the extra damage, even though it was deeper than the turret. So here you go. You're going to see it again. The slow first. You see the ult. You see all those balls right there? She repositions herself, pauses, steps in, casts the E, gets that long range stun, and expertly played. That was beautiful. Yeah, thinking they're strong, but what a play by K'Sante. This is the biggest outplay that you can do in the matchup, using your W to shield off the Renekton. Renekton's biggest damage source is his empowered W, and that's also where he's trying to lock you up. And by having K'Sante's W active for that, you're completely negating all of Renekton's all-in potential, and you saw how he was able to turn the matchup from there. Whales with control over the pit. This was a vision advantage. Come in, you were able to hit those long distance hooks, and it's only going to get worse now. Kai'Sa Nautilus ultimates are going to be up in a minute, and then they have full summoner spells for themselves. They should be able to take this over. And we see very loose here, Renekton. Somebody may have mentioned that Renekton's a K'Sante counter. It's not as big as Garen and Trogath, that's for sure. We'd like to see more Jaxes. We'd like to see even more Kennons. Of course, a lot of these champions are high on the ban list. Let's see if they get punished for this right here. Little Blast Cone makes it a one-sided trade. That's very good right before ultimates are coming up too. So that's actually perfect for them. They had the threat of the ultimates, Xayah Rakan did. That's why you saw Team Whales, despite having the item lead here, completed Kraken Slayer. You'd expect to want to take that fight, but they know that they're 5 and 10 seconds away from their ultimates. So therefore they can't continue that fight. They don't want to keep on going into the Xayah Rakan with their ultimates available. Just count it like another spell rotation. At this level, the ults, they deal some amount of damage. Not tremendous, but the effect, right? You can't start dealing damage to Xayah because she's just going to get that big fan of feathers out for you. Herald's up in 140. So we saw an immediate Herald take first time around. We saw how quickly they used it just to get the plate, just to get the gold, get a little spike, right? That's very important to do early in these games. The earlier you do it, the more likely you're going to get mythic before or first item, whatever it is, whatever your spike item is. You're going to get that before the enemy team if you use Herald proactively. Now, of course, a lot of people, especially when you're playing in your solo queue games, you want it on the jungler so that they can make plays on the side lane, and then you tend to get kills, and then you can go in and actually whittle down the plates, then drop the Herald, and get much more value out of it, 4 or 5 plates, maybe the first turret out of it. But in pro, that rarely happens. People play cautiously, they play defensively. Enemy jungler will basically track your movements and make sure to show up wherever you show up so that you can't do that. But that can be its own prize in and of itself, right? If you have the Herald and you know that enemy jungler has to track you for the next 4 minutes, that's great. That's a big bonus that you know that they're going to be matching you, and you get to either farm quickly or you make a proactive play or whatever you can do. But certainly, like we said, the earlier you do it, the more likely it is that you get that item spike before the enemy team. Now, looking at the shape of the team fights, we're going to see this comp a lot over Worlds. Basically, these 10 champions could easily be here in some mix or match form. What you're seeing from Syndra is a front to back peel, also a continuation for Rakan, so both of them can play front to back. Renekton's going to be looking to T-bone that, all right? So you're sort of setting up a hammer to the anvil strategy. Hold on, we'll watch this fight. All right, they end up pulling out a little bit early. That's fine. Oh, but a misposition from Artemis, wisely flashing right away. Realizing that you've got that big wall at your side. This is something AD carry foul positioning, right? You don't want to be putting long walls at your back unless you know that you have the freedom of escape on the other side. Orianna Ball being used for vision. Let's see if we get this interaction. Ooh, dodging stat of the week. So Lee Sin's trying to bait out abilities, has succeeded. Teams should actually go in right there. Health bars were pretty low. They did have a window to at least deal a bunch of their damage back. But between Lee Sin dead and Nautilus already low, I don't mind them not taking it. But there's definitely a window to get at least a little bit of chunk damage back, get everyone to half health. And they opt to instead keep it up for the dragon fight. A lot of ultimates went down. In fact, all 5 ultimates went down for that Lee Sin pick. So they say, you know what, we don't need to fight that one. Instead, we can come secure dragon. If I'm Gigabyte Marines, I'm not even contesting the dragon here because enemy team is there first. They're going to have Fog of War advantage. They also get to shop on this Lee Sin, and it looks like Lee Sin is going to bluff or call the bluff. How do you want to say this? Double down on the team already going there. Blue team thinks that everyone on Team Wales is at Dragon. Therefore, they don't go to Dragon. Therefore, Lee Sin realizes that he has a window to not go to Dragon and instead goes and gets his Raptors, which might have been an enticing spot for Viego to try to steal a camp. But I like that sort of like, I know you know, so I know. From the jungler, it is a risky proposition. Like, what if they do come and just decide to poke around? The fact that you don't have smite might make it kind of hard. You do have the Kaisa execute damage, so they should be fine there, but very, very hard to optimize that 5th auto attack proc as Kaisa. Like, you can do it, but if you're sitting around waiting, like, hey, do I do this? How many teams actually know exactly how much damage Kaisa deals at exactly every stage of the game? With that execute can be kind of tough to estimate. It ends up paying off though, and at +1 camp, right? You didn't waste any time going to that spot. Now, as we set up what we're going to get from mid-game macro, notice how Syndra has gone to the top lane, and we've got Renekton down here. Often you'll see Syndra go into the lane that's shorter, meaning there's 2 turrets closer to each other in this case. But what you can do by going to top is you just freely shove. You've got that extra space for the wave to roam. That means Syndra can just go collect, shove, excuse the wave, stack up 2 sometimes, and then she can go off into the map. And you see how Rakan and Viego can now be super aggressive going into this northern quadrant. That's because Syndra has the push in top. That's what priority is. Syndra is there first. Orianna, you notice how she also gives herself a ward in the corner of the Krugs right here. This is to make sure that she can freely farm. See how she's not going for this wave? They don't know. This entire northern quadrant is foggy for them, so they're not going to step up. They know they're strong here. So Orianna just says, okay, I'll leave the wave right here. If it's stacking up, that's great. I can come back to this. I can also use my recall. This is something Faker used to do a lot, which was to use the recall as a way to buy yourself time. You just start channeling it. 7 seconds, like if you're hiding in a bush, you might as well just channel your recall. If you do happen to see 3 people coming your way, you're 6 seconds into a recall and you'll let it finish, and that's your fastest path to safety. So anytime that you plan on just staying in a bush, best thing to do is to do that recall. In solo queue, if you're trying to plan something with teammates, that can give the wrong impression. They might think that you're actually trying to leave. So that's a tenuous balance, but in these organized games, always 100% of the time. I see these vision right here. They're controlling this area, making sure that it's not safe for anyone to red to go into this area. What they're going to do is create themselves a shallow line of vision that they can do to protect themselves, right? They say, this is our area. We're going to control this much space. I don't want you any deeper. And then we ourselves are going to go into this area. So what's really happening is we've got a red side of the map and a blue side of the map for what's coming up. This will favor GAM as we approach towards Baron, because Baron is coming up sooner than Dragon, and like we said, this area is off limits for red team, which means that GAM will have no problem getting into the Baron pit here. See a nice little simple rotation to go get a pick. Now, I don't like what GAM's doing right now. They're actually going to show everyone. Oh, no, Lee Sin might just bite. Doesn't realize that there's people in this. Okay. All right, they end up getting, if the intent was just to get this sort of area, again, because they already control here, If they can get this area as well, then now they know whether or not someone's trying to get wedge into their other quadrant, and they're already still protecting. But what they have done is they have lapsed in the vision in this quadrant right here. Oh, beautiful area right there. Back this up. How did they get into this window? Momentarily. Let's just take a look at Baron Pit. Rakan dutifully going out. You see this little triangle that he's putting down a vision. This makes sure that you see anyone coming in. Now, this is the way to beat it, is to push up through mid and to go straight at them from the mid lane. It is hardest. You also get the advantage of being able to have mid lane priority for yourself in that situation, where if this fight does break out and you win, then you already have a pushing wave for yourself as well. You saw Cassante taking out the Viego. That could have been super, super dicey. But that is it. They do get Baron for themselves. Interesting play here. Now, 2 people dead, but Wales has the inside track for this dragon. Notice that because there's a teleport here, they don't care about taking just a little bit of damage away from this turret. If you're not taking the whole thing, you don't necessarily need to go for any of it. Like what Lee Sin's doing here, pulling out the dragon. Absolutely love this, actually. Neat little play. Pull out the dragon, try to get it further away, get it into a more favorable spot for your own contest if it comes up. But of course, Gigabyte Marines using that teleport, plus the fact that 2 people were dead, were able to get into it. Screen and screen, you see the fight here. Cassante bringing him over the wall. Cassante does have to give up 40% of his HP to do that. You also get ultimate from Xayah here, which is not nothing, but the death timer is going to almost overlap with that, which means that we don't have too much threat. All right, now taking a look at their macro, what they're going to try to do is 2 lane pushes with fog in between, right? So they're going to completely ignore this. Top side can get completely ignored. When you're looking for these pushes, what they're really trying to do is wedge into this area and make this an off-limit zone for them. Oh, did we get an engage? Team Wales is able to get the ultimate plus the teleport synergy right there with that deep ward. Beautifully done to get a kill on Xayah. That's going to kill the entire Baron buff. Because they cannot stick around 4v5. The one thing that they can do is try to split you apart right now and go into different lanes. Try to exploit the fact that you don't have any more teleports available, or you just have Oriannas, and you don't have any more ultimates, right? 3 ultimates were used to get that Xayah pick. Was fantastically done to get the pick, but you see that Syndra didn't just balk and immediately back off. Realizes that, hey, they're going to push in, so that gives me time to break this bottom turret. This means that over the course of the game, anytime that we have these normal stagnant waves, if they're 50-50, what you can do is just nip off the backline, right? Kill the casters. And by killing the casters, you'll create a slow push. Your wave will be healthier for longer. Your next wave will reinforce. It'll start being a double stacked wave. Then it will get to this point. You end up with a triple stacked wave. And then you can end up with enough pressure that actually breaks the base without ever going to bottom. This becomes really important when we think about Baron coming up in 3 minutes. What you want to do is in about a minute from now, you want to go make sure that this is slow pushing. Now this got fast pushed all the way in. This is a mistake that a lot of teams still make. It happens absolutely in your solo queue games when you push without an actual benefit, immediate benefit. Now, what they do opt to go for is a fast push bot into holding the northern quadrant. So that, when we talk about the immediate benefit, there's the immediate benefit. You say we can create Fog of War. This creates a flank for ourselves. We sent Orianna into bot lane for a moment, and Orianna going into bot lane means that we're able to set up this play for ourselves. This is a very good use of time by Gambit to actually create these picks. Rakan able to get a beautiful engage, and that's actually going to be GG. 4 for 0. They've got a wave here. Levi should go and tank this. No, we can't do it with the wave. Easy kill of the inhibitor here. We'll see how many people they bring and whether or not they split the troops. It looks like they are going to bring Renekton top. There is no wave yet. Now you're working on succinct pushes. Orianna very difficult to get under in this spot. She doesn't have her ultimate though, so the threat is not really there. Viego's going to be very happy to continue that. Well done. Opting to not go for the body. Doesn't want to get himself out of position. Xayah crushing the wave. They end up getting this down. but nothing else. Remember how we talked about bot wave, the pros and cons of pushing that wave hard? Yes, you got Orianna there, and that small amount of time that Orianna was there allowed you to find this engage for yourself. You still got the big shockwave. Actually, it looked like it whiffed, and oh, there it is. Pretty big damage, but not enough. Also, unfortunately, Glory casting the shockwave at the same time as going Zhonya's. Normally, you want to take advantage of that time that most people are being bounced around. But you did have a croc on your head here. Now, succinct pushes, this is what you'd like to have. Syndra was unable to create anything meaningful in the bot wave. So you basically had Viego going, chipping at the inhibitor, then coming over for the fight. Renekton going top, getting the wave in, but not all the way. It's could have been handled better. You do want to make sure that you're going a little bit stronger in two different positions rather than going for all three right there. Now let's see what Renekton does here. Is he frame last hitting? No, he's going for the push. Now, again, he's doing the push as this wave. You see how he did wait a little bit for this wave to catch up before going for the fast push? That's what they've shown that they're trying to do, that they're pushing this wave, trying to keep Orianna pinned to this side of the map, which now allows them to move into the northern quadrant, and that's how they're creating priority for themselves. So it is a pattern of play that we see. There is an exploit to that. You can defend that by actually engaging against this player as they rotate out. You can also beat that by actually skipping the bot wave and not sending anyone there and going 5v4 versus the rest of the stack. But basically, Team Wales is doing exactly enough in the most predictable way, which is send your mage down to pick up the big wave. And that's exactly when Gigabyte is engaging their 5v4. So it's a I don't want to call it a basic play, but it's a simple play. And they're using it to great effect. Team Wales has not shown the propensity to stop it. So we'll see if they can adjust that for game 2.